Alright, yeah, welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today we're going to be playing in the little bit of Brawl queue with my little treasure. We're going to be playing around with Galazeth Prismari, the newest commander from Strixhaven, a 4-mana 3/4 with flying. When it enters the battlefield, you create a treasure token, and then it has a passive ability saying, artifacts you control have add 1 mana of any colour. Spend this only to cast instants or sorcery spells. So this deck plays kind of like an Is It Tempo list. It also plays similarly to the Kaza Royal Chaser list we played in the past. So if you do enjoy that deck, I think this is probably the standard equivalent of that list. Although, to be fair, you could probably play Kaza Royal Chaser in its place in some form or another, but you would need to swap in a couple of wizards here and there. We don't have all that many wizards. I think we only have like Archmage, Emeritus, and that might be about it, because you're a giant, you're a rogue, and you're a dragon, and you're a towel. Anyway, but what we're going to be doing instead is having kind of an Artifacts Matters tempo list with a big mana payoff, because that is what Galazeth Prismari basically offers to you as a card. So when it enters, it can basically protect itself by generating the treasure that you can use to cast instant on sorceries. That means you can cast any counterspell you really want, so negates, lofty denials, Dwara's disruptions, disdainful strokes, all of that nonsense can be cast straight after tapping out with a Prismari quite a fair bit of the time. It does require that you do play some artifacts prior to the Galazeth though, so we do have a fair few of those. We got the Witching Well, Shadow Spear, Arcane Signet, which is just mana on its own, so it's really useful. The best one, of course. Gold Vein Pick, which I think is a pretty decent card. 2 mana, +1/+1 to any equipped creature, and when it deals combat damage to a player, you create a treasure token. Remember, the treasures with Galazeth don't have to sacrifice to use them, so this thing can be extremely cheap with a Galazeth out. Attacking with it as well is easy enough, because Galazeth with flying means it's got some decent evasion there, so you're likely to get the treasure token out of it. So this ends up being a 3 mana card in total to equip that will generate 2 mana in total off of both the pick and the treasure it generates. Remember, artifacts or equipments don't tap when the creature they're equipped to attacks as well, so it is just an untapped effect at all times. And it hides behind your Galazeth as well, which can trick your opponent into thinking that you have less mana than you do. It's pretty cute. We do still have some more though. We've got Mazemind Tome and Tome of Legends. I don't play this card a great deal in a lot of Brawl decks. I think for a lot of people this can be a trap, because this really wants to be played in a deck that can have a commander that attacks pretty consistently, or make use of it being an artifact in play, and Galazeth does both of those things. You can fly over the top to regenerate and generate some more lore counters on it, or page counters, yeah, page counters. And it can also be used to tap for mana as well, as a 2 mana rock. It's pretty awesome. As we said though, this is kind of a tempo list, so we're going to be trying to stop our opponent from doing lots of things. So we do also have extra counters, we have extra bounce. The fun cards in this list are going to be Teferi's Ageless Insight. If you draw a card, except for the first one you draw on each of your draw steps, draw 2 cards instead. Surprised this thing isn't an artifact. It always blows my mind every time. But yep, it is indeed a legendary enchantment. We draw a lot of cards in this deck, so being able to double up on our cards is pretty insane. So Opt is a scry 1, draw 2, for example. Tome of Legends is a tap 1, draw 2. All of that nonsense. It's pretty useful. But I do at one point fall for this card being an artifact and do my math accordingly. But anyway, as I said, we're a big mana deck, so how do we win the game? Well, there's a few ways. One of them is Crackle with Power. 2 red and triple X deals 5 times X damage to up to X targets. So for every 3 mana you invest into this card, so 5 mana for 5 damage to 1 target, 8 mana for 10 damage up to 2 targets, and so on and so forth. The more you do, the better you do. And Galazeth generates lots of treasures, so we can really get this thing to pop off. And we shouldn't really have to do the full 20 damage. It's probably going to be close to about 15 damage that you have to do at some point, because we do have like Bone Crushers in here as well to deal stomp damage, Prismari commands to do stomp damage as well, and so on. Magma Opus, 4 damage divided as you choose, tap 2 permanents, make a 4/4. I'm sure most of you know I love this card. I play it in virtually every deck. In fact, I feel like I'm overdoing it on the Is It content this week, so if you don't like Is It, I do apologize. But you know what, right now, it's my school of choice, let's say that. But this also generates treasure tokens by discarding in the early game, so you don't have these expensive spells stuck in your hand, but you may want to consider keeping them in your hand, knowing full well that you might be able to untap with Galazeth Prismari and actually cast these realistically. We've got Creative Outburst and Elemental Masterpiece that do the same thing. Seagate Restoration, a 7-mana draw cards equal to the number of cards in your hand plus 1. Again, it's not unusual for us to actually cast that. Outrun's Epiphany for extra turns and 2/2s, and then Sublime Epiphany as well to copy things, bounce things, draw things, and counter things, and disrupt things. It's pretty disgusting. So, you know what? Let's let the deck decide how it wants to win. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. If you do, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't yet done so, and other than that, hope you enjoy the video, and I'll see you in the gameplay. This video is brought to you by the generous support of our wonderful patrons and channel members that you see here. If you'd like to support the channel and get access to cool content like sneak peeks, bonus videos, polls on future content, or access to a personal deck critique from myself every month, then hit the join button down below, or check out the Patreon link in the description. With all that said, let's get into the gameplay. Ooh-wee, we're in, and this hand is fine. We don't have a turn 1 play, but we don't usually anyway, so we can play the Temple of Epiphany and that's just fine. Our opponent is on Valky or Tybalt, Cosmic Imposter, which should be an interesting matchup. For sure. That's a card that I'm definitely going to keep. A Sensor that can also become a mostly hard counter later down the line. And let's just go blue sauce here. I think we're either going to discard the Masterpiece or we're going to Lofty Denial, depending on what our opponent does here. So yeah, Valky, God of Lies is our opponent's commander. We've played this recently. I think we played it when Kaldheim came out, and we haven't played it since. Yeah, we can do nothing about that. That's fine, though. If they play Valky here, I'm just going to, like, let it resolve and keep it around. I don't think I'd be in much of a rush to get rid of it. Alright, let's seize the spoils. Get rid of probably Expressive Iteration, considering we're drawing cards anyway. Seagate Restoration is definitely a card I want to untap with on my Prismari. So let's do that. Yeah, as I was saying, I've played Valky in the past. I found it to be mostly an underpowered deck, honestly. I just don't think Rakdos has really got what it takes to keep up with the rest of the meta. Sure. So they're actually just going to try and go straight for Tybalt by the looks of things. So I can play Galazeth here, leaving the 2 mana for a removal spell if they have, like, Heartless Act, or the Strixhaven one with the student cost. If I get to resolve this and it sticks, then I've got counter magic open. I think I might give it a shot. Straight into play. And now I can hold up a hard counter or a conditional counter. Epic Downfall. It's going to have to be a hard counter. 3, 4, 5 mana. Feed the Swarm. Okay. To the command zone. Back out again. If they're using Feed the Swarm, you gotta know that they're using removal that they probably would rather not be using. And if they want to tap out for a Tybalt here, I can Lofty Denial it. Destroy all creatures. No. Like, we do expose ourselves to Tybalt here, but we also get to play the Seagate Restoration. That's 3, 6, 7, plus a land drop. So we get to draw 5 cards, plus make a land drop with 2 mana open, so we could get, like, a negate off of that. I think that's pretty decent. Probably should win us the game. Almost no doubt. Our opponent seems to think so anyway, so on to the next one. Alrighty then, we're in. We've got artifacts straight up the curve. It's a bit of a weird one, because I'd rather one of these artifacts actually be a spell that interacts, but I'm going to keep it. Like, turn 1 Shadow Spear, turn 2... Ah, there you go. There's an interaction spell. Play the Shadow Spear. It's a mana rock for Prismari. Then we can play the Pick, which we can then equip to the Prismari as well, and start generating mana that way. Proxer. Let's go down Elemental Masterpiece. I think it's the worst of the discard treasure cards. I think we're just going Gold Vein Pick. Yeah, I think so. Our opponent's on Corvold, Fake Curse King. 5 mana 4/4 flying. Whenever Corvold, the Fake Curse King, enters the battlefield or attacks, you sacrifice another permanent. And then whenever you sacrifice a permanent, you can also put a counter on the Corvold and draw a card. It's a commander that I also find to be quite mediocre. Usually if you can deal with the Corvold several times, they get to a position where they just can't play the game anymore. So we can discard for a treasure here. That means that I can hold up and negate. I guess I could do that with... No, I can't do that with Midnight Clock, because I've already made my land drop. Yeah, I think we're discarding Create Outburst here. And then negating, maybe, if we need to. Rankle. Okay. So, discard the token. Or discard and make a token. Opponent's probably going to make us discard. Wow, they want us to draw as well. Alright, well, with 3 artifacts in play, I think I'm just going to get rid of the Midnight Clock here. I want to make my land drop and then still have mana open. Yeah. Yeah, that kind of stings. Arcane Signet. I do want to further my mana. Can I do that and still play Prismari? If I had 4 mana here, I could get a permanent source of mana. If I Arcane Signet, land, play Galazeth, then everything gets turned on. Is that worth just cracking a treasure for? I want to say probably not. I'm going to play my island over anything else, because if they do make me discard, I'm going to get rid of a land anyway, so I don't want them to know that I have a land in hand. Because it's just a nice, easy discard here. I'm sure they're going to go and try and remove my Galazeth to push through Prankle. The Crowan War. They absolutely are. So, dodged a little bullet there. We do need a good card off the top, though. Good card off the top would be ideal. Can't attack, because our opponent has Prankle that could get me to lose my Galazeth. We do have a Inscription, which I can pay the kicker cost on. Guess that's not bad. It does drop my guard, which might be a bit of a downside, but I don't know if it's going to be that bad. So, return you. Scry 2, and then make a illusion. Maze Mine Tome. Now, we can do better than both of these. Witching Well and a Wrath. 3 cards in the yard, 4 with the Fabled Passage, so probably not going to be seeing Crocs or anytime soon. I do want to make my land drop. I think we just pass the turn here, and hopefully we can get a little bit blown out with Prankle plus removal. Need to be a 2-mana removal spell or less. So it kind of limits their options. I mean, okay. Fair enough. They don't have it. I think they are under the impression that if I untap, I win, which might not be incorrect. I'm generating a ton of mana with the Goldvein pick over several turns. I've got the Witching Well to scry and draw, which I can use this mana to do that, and then have the artifacts ready to go to actually play the cards that I draw. I can Wrath the board if I really want to, getting rid of the Prankle. Does get rid of my board, but if Prankle plus removal happens, my board's gone anyway, probably. But maybe along with the Prankle, who knows. They're in a bit of a weird position. So, yeah, pretty good game. Alrighty then, let's go. We're up against the Shire Soul of the Wild, 5 mana, 0/0, power and toughness equal to the number of lands you control, and non-token creatures you control are forest lands in addition to their other types. Don't see this one very often. I'm seeing a nice variation of commanders today, actually. Some of the lesser played ones, at least. Not too much a Seeker, for example, which still remains unbanned for some unknown reason. Okay, let's go Command Tower and pass. I'd love to be able to resolve a Teferi's Ageless Insight this game. That would be wonderful. Make my day. We are going to kill the Lotus Cobra here. Probably creating a treasure with the Prismari command along the way. I don't mind the cards that we already have. We definitely need to do the 2 damage. I think a treasure is probably worth my time, considering my commander and all. So let's get rid of a little bit of their ramp. They've got a 4/4. A problem now, but not forever. We could Insight. If we Insighted and they had Gem Razor or something like that, then we've done nothing. And that would suck. But if we get to untap with it, then we get to do a draw 4 with the Seize the Spoils, and I think that's pretty cool. Also, Tome of Legends draws 2 a turn as well. I like the idea of the potential of untapping here. With the Insight, I think we're going to go for it. If you don't play it now, when do you play it? Once upon a time. Alright, so we've dodged the Insight destruction, which is fantastic. One thing we do have to concern ourselves with now, I suppose, is like ram through effects, which is not something we have to concern ourselves with immediately, of course. But untapping, we definitely want to be finding ourselves a counterspell here. And Seize the Spoils, creating the treasure token will help us do that. I hate to get rid of Crackle with Power, because I think it will win us the game eventually, but I guess it is 10 right now. It's 10 damage across 3 things. And we are drawing a million cards, so maybe Tome of Legends isn't all that necessary. Yeah, I guess it's not worth losing the amount of mana that we would probably lose, I guess. Alright, well, we at least have a Jwari's Disruption. It's not ideal. But it will do. No more card advantage drawn into, which is one of the hopes that I had. Can't be countered. If it was kicked, it enters with 4 counters on it, so it's a 10-10. Oh, no, it wasn't. No, it was just red because it was uncounterable. I understand. Going to 11. Do we want to stomp our opponent? Suppose I might as well. It's mana efficient. Shadow Spear. Yeah, that Baloth is going to be a problem, but I guess if I'm gaining 4 a turn, taking 6 isn't so bad. So, equip on the Galazeth. Hit you for 4, gain 4. I'm just wondering whether or not we do a little crackle. Just a tiny crackle. Or do we wait on it? If I wait on it, we've got 5, 10, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. We've got lethal with it if I wait on it. Maybe that's worth doing. I can put the Bone Crusher Giant down. And pass the turn. We miss lethal if our opponent has a removal for Galazeth. But if it's a direct fight, then we gain life off of that, I suppose, as well. Oh, I do have, I'm being silly. I've just realised I'm being very silly, because I've got the Shadow Spear, which can remove Hexproof. I should absolutely be using that. It might not matter, but I should. Dodge removal, please. Yeah, one of the many, many times that Shadow Spear has additional text on it. Canopy Baloth. I could technically counter this, so why the hell not? Makes our opponent scoop quicker. Let's do it. It feels bad to get countered unless you pay 1 with that much mana. Storm's Wrath. Yeah, so I've got the 2 for the crackle, then 1, 2, 3 for 5, 1, 2, 3 for 10, plus the Shadow Spear permanent of losing Hexproof. So X is 2. Right, that's how that works. 5 times 2, yeah. 1. Oh, it's up to X targets as well. So I'm going to kill the Baloth. I'm going to hit their face. Yeah. I miss lethal. Because this is a land drop. Oh, I'm such an idiot. Sorry, guys. Do apologize. I don't think I'll lose from here, but if I do, I deserve it. I just realized between the Shatterskull, the Hammer Pass being our second land, and the Shadow Spear and the Teferi's Insight that hasn't untapped yet, I'm just looking at these treasures and thinking they're my only mana source. Yeah, that's a thing. I could swear that Ugin just said, relax your buttocks. Something about being flexible. Alright, so he goes down to 4. We lose a Galazeth and our Ageless Insight. I'm going to put you back into the command zone. At least we have a Storm's Wrath available here to kill the Ugin. Which isn't bad. Probably going to forfeit my treasures at this stage so I can get Galazeth in. And I have Lofty Denial open. Anything that kills me or kills my Galazeth, I'll counter. Everything else is probably fine. Elder GG, I'd call that enough of disruption. I want to be able to threaten my opponent with lethal. Which won't come this turn. Because it should have come last turn. But still, here we are. We live, we learn, we do better next time. Okay, you're on 1. Do you have an answer to Galazeth? If you do not, you are dead. I don't know if they've got the mana for a Shire plus Bonder's Enclave here. So that's 6. Yeah, I don't think they've got enough for both. So I'm assuming because they're trying to do the math to draw the card that they don't have the answer currently. Alright, so here's the Ashaya. And victory achieved. Fantastic. Alright. Yeah. Bit of a silly mistake, because even when I was doing the math on presenting lethal, I actually accounted for the Shatter Skull smashing here, so bit annoying that I ended up forgetting about it, but that's just my my mashed potato brain, I guess, in full effect. Anyway, next game. Alright, I'm convinced at this point that this deck just loves different decks. And I love that it loves different decks. Alright, what are we doing with this? Because the mana's a bit awkward. I think we probably tap land and then mountain with Brazen Borrower open. I just don't know. Like, we want to be able to bounce Rowan or counter Rowan. So I think we're keeping this because it has the availability to do that. But not being able to play the Shadow Spear on turn 1 or turn 2 kinda stinks. Here I think I go with a Fatale. That way I can play Mountain, Shadow Spear and have a hard counter open, or a Brazen Borrower. I think having options is definitely going to be very useful here. Especially if our opponent does nothing, then at least we're making a proactive play. Interesting, they tapped out. Alright. Shadow Spear, go. So, Crawling Barrens. If I drew a land, then I would want to counter this. Because it means I get to resolve my Galazeth. With Disdainful Stroke backup. Or Brazen Borrower backup. 40% odds of drawing a land. I'll take those odds. I also could mana screw our opponent, and in which case they might be more inclined to concede. Always had it. Calculated risk. Demon Bolt was in their Fatale zone. Wow, okay. Calculated risk did not pay off. Opponent with a Midnight Clock. Sure. So the Midnight Clock gets ticking. I have Archmage Emeritus. Surely. Surely not. Wow. That is wild. Okay. Can't pay for that. I have to hold up in Disdainful Stroke here, I think. He's not going to be able to counter Rowan, but I don't really care too much about Rowan anyway, I don't think. On her own, she really just doesn't do much. Especially if I just go Storm's Wrath here. Which I think I may just do. They need like a miscast or whatever. I mean, they seem to have had every like perfect counter under the sun that are so situational. Unsubstantiate. Sure. Right now, I would say my treasure is more useful than a gold vein pick in play, because at least this produces mana right now. So I can still Wrath, and the Disdainful Stroke can counter a Rewind, I guess. Rowan getting to ult, though, is going to really suck if that ends up happening. But looks like it's gonna get to happen. I'll counter this, I think. Well, no, you don't counter card draw. I'm just thinking about the follow-up and... yeah, maybe not. If it didn't come at the cost of a treasure, I might have done it. So I can Wrath. Worst case scenario, I can Brazen Borrow to reset. Yeah, I think that's the line. So Wrath resolves, and we pass. I do need to bounce the Midnight Clock at some point, but with their hand being a 7-card hand, it's not really a priority right now. Let's see if they want to go for the 5-mana Rowan. Chadwick. To draw 2 and a tapper. I think I'll go for that. Land. Come on, land. It's technically a land. It's not really the land that I wanted to lose. But if it gets Galazeth in play, is that worth it? 5 cards for our opponent. Their commander doesn't do anything to Galazeth. So it'd be the 5 cards that they have in play already that I can't really answer because Brazen Borrower only allows you to bounce opponents' permanents. I think I'll go Midnight Clock. And probably just like Brazen Borrow the Midnight Clock, take them off of a little bit of mana here. I'm not sure what I want to do with this. Do I want to get it in play? What am I really doing with the extra mana next turn? I don't really have a plan for it. I have some big spells, but Seagate Restoration's one of them. So just going to play the Midnight Clock again. 3 mana remaining. And choosing to pass. The priority they're holding could just be the Midnight Clock activation. So like, this just doesn't feel like a good use of my time. Maybe this just being a draw 2. Honestly, I'd take that and hope that we don't get like Dwari's Disruption here. Yep. Counter card draw. It's usually not a good idea. I'd say that's probably one of the instances where it doesn't really make a great deal of sense. It's basically a 7 mana draw 2 that taps me out. It's a rather desperate play from me, to be honest, but I'm glad it got out and negate at least. So that could be used on something far more interesting. Ugh. So this could get like Mystical Dispute. Yeah. It's going to make it hard to resolve spells. Still can't pay for Galazeth here. I could get ahead with the Midnight Clock, maybe. Try and race it towards a draw 7. Downside to doing that is if our opponent has a bounce spell of their own. It's not going to do me many favors. Yeah. We're falling too far behind now. We have no card advantage. We know our opponent can interact, and we can't. Let's set this forward at least a little bit. Inscription of Abundance. You see, that just doesn't help me at all. Like, if I target Goldspan Dragon, they make a treasure, and our opponent fights over it. If I bounce the Shipwreck Dowser, they get the counterspell that they just used to interact with it. I'm just gonna have to kind of use this as a scry 2 draw 2, I think. I don't really have much of an option at this stage. Even then, I think, honestly, a Mystical Dispute here is totally fine to pinch my mana. Yeah, just bottom both. I need something better. Gold span of my own. I think this game's over. I think it's over. Likelihood is Fire Prophecy never hits the Dowser ever. All they have to do is interact with it. Like, if they cast this Mystical Dispute, it becomes a 4/4, so that's not going to help me. Guess I can block with Brazen Borrower. It's not a great use of my time or mana. But it's the world we live in. Can't block the Shipwreck Dowser with the Brazen Borrower. I don't have the mana to Fire Prophecy the Goldspan Dragon now, and even if I did, they could keep it alive. I'm gonna go with a Will. Probably the draw 2 here. 5 mana open.
I've got a test tomorrow. Well,
yeah, I mean, should we just call it a day? Kind of feels like we should. I mean, I'll give this a shot. It's not actually going to resolve though, but at least maybe it gets rid of their treasures. And does that have any value? No, not really. But I don't know what else my other options are, really. Counter unless you pay 1. There we go. Boom. Command zone, please. I would like to die quicker. Yeah, I'm basically just going to see what my next 7 cards are with the Midnight Clock and scoop it up. Especially if they bounce a Midnight Clock, then that's just as good as dead as well.
you just stay there.
Alright, this has been a pretty reasonable back and forth, but our opponent has won basically on every single axis, every single turn, from start to finish. I mean, they're even gonna draw 9 million cards, so yeah. I'd say we've got the better commander, but it doesn't really matter, because they have the better board state. And there it is. Alright, next game. Okay, opponent goes first. We've got some of the more expensive cards in our hand, but we do have an Opt and reasonable mana, so I think we'll keep this one. We can discard the Masterpiece as well to get an early Galazeth down. And the only thing we really have to concern ourselves with there is, like, banishing light effects. Do I care too much about Heliod? We don't have an answer to him currently. But maybe I can dig into one. If he generates a large enough creature, it can become a problem. Interventions, not bad actually, because I'm going to put a Masterpiece into my graveyard at some point. That at least sweeps the board. It protects... Alseid protects against something, though. Because you can give protection from red to get rid of damage base burn spells as an option. Suppose, though, if Alseed is the only option, it's not so bad. Is it worth using a treasure on just to get rid of an Alseed, though? It's a really useful removal spell that probably doesn't need to be set out like that. I don't want to use Galazeth here for fear of it just getting blown up. Maybe just go Witching Well, set up the turn a little bit. Smashing. It's an X2. I feel like we can do better than that as well. And honestly, let's seize the spoils here. Let's get rid of Culmination Studies. I just need to dig through the deck a little bit more. Inscription of Insight's not too bad. Luminous Broodmoth. So yeah, we can do a pretty reasonable tempo swing here. Because I can just Inscription of Insight and bounce both of these back, and that's going to slow them down just enough for me. I think that's totally fine. I'm just looking for one of my hard counters for a Banishing Light. I don't feel comfortable dropping Galazeth until that point. So, they spent the entire turn undoing what I'd just done. I don't think I've got a choice, though, honestly. Like, I think this just needs to be done. And yeah, let's just pass. I can block Broodmoth for a turn until they give it lifelink to make it a 4/5. You only need Devotion of 5. It's interesting they didn't play anything pre-combat here. So this does look a little bit odd to me. Potentially like a Kabira takedown, which I don't have an answer to. I think I'll just let this go. Yeah, make it larger. I can maybe bounce it later. I can even hit it with a Creative Outburst, to be fair. Well, I can until Alseed does its business, but Alseed's got to do its business sooner rather than later. And we can hit for 7 with an intervention. So let's just pass again. There we go. Let's see. Negate. Brazen Borrower. They just played an Omen, which doesn't bother me. I'm on my end step. I think I'd take Negate, honestly. I think it'll be useful enough. We were looking to protect our Galazeth from Banishing Light effects, so... They didn't necessarily have it before. Now they do. Alright. That's annoying. Down to 14. Gold Vein Pick. So, yeah, I think we're dropping Galazeth again. Because I can block reasonably here. I feel weird putting down the Seagate as a land, because I don't know if I necessarily need to. It would allow me to do negate plus disdainful stroke, which has value, but the 3 life also has value, and resolving a Seagate restoration here is probably backbreaking and game winning. Okay, Heliod's in play. Interesting. The less they attack with, the better for me. Heliod can't give itself lifelink either, so there's no trigger to be had there. Yeah, well, I'll block here. I'm going to sweep the board next turn whether Galazeth lives or not. Destroy target artifact or enchantment, you gain 4 life. No, you don't. Punish this attack. As much as I can punish this attack. Which admittedly is not by much. This leaves me with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana to play with. I only need to X4 it. I think I'll honestly still just go with the Masterpiece. The only reason you care about your graveyard is shuffling it back in with Midnight Clock. This keeps Heliod's devotion down low. Could go with an Archmage. Or I could set that up for next turn, but setting that up for next turn just gives me a nice greedy Seagate restoration. And potentially extra protection from getting hit with Heliod, which I don't think is all that relevant, honestly. Let's go with a Goldvein pick. Let's get it equipped. 2 devotions, easy enough for them to do. Is it easy enough for them to do through a Disdainful Stroke? Yes. Through a Disdainful Stroke and gaining a point of life? Maybe not so much. I think I'll take my chance. It might not be worth it. It's such high risk for such little payoff, but it did pay off. So Galazeth gets to live. Scoops at 37? I thought life totals mattered. Oh, apparently not. Alright, so what do we do from here? We probably Seagate Restoration. Probably pre-combat. We go 4, 5, 6, 7. We could play the Archmage Emeritus, but it doesn't leave us with anything as a follow-up to protect our Galazeth, for example. So we're only really drawing 3. For some reason, people just like to scoop in this position. Don't understand it, but it works for me, so whatever. Next game. Ooh, an Elder Dragonoff. Yeah, we're going to keep this one. Seems pretty reasonable to me. It doesn't have an early game mana rock, but these will generate me mana off the Galazeth anyway. We can discard with the Masterpiece as well. Yeah, it's alright. It's fine. Disdainful Stroke for their commander. Beladroth's Witherbloom, 7 mana 4/4 with flying. Ooh, Dryas Disruption. That is a fine hit, I would say, because if we don't need to use it, we'll discard the Masterpiece. 7 mana 4/4 with flying. At the beginning of each upkeep, create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with whenever this dies, gain 1 life. You can pay 10 to untap all lands you control, but you can only do it once each turn. Our opponent's just going to pass, so I am going to discard this Masterpiece, as we discussed. And yeah, this is where things get sketchy. I think we forfeit our Disruption in aid of hopefully getting a Prismari down. I think we'll go with the Tome of Legends, because if we're not getting Prismari down, Goldvein pick is so much worse. At least the Tome draws me a card. and helps me make the land drops I'm looking for. Dropping my guard here kinda stinks. But, I mean, if all they were going to do is play a 3-drop, then I wasn't really doing anything anyway. Opponent has... Well, they've died. We won. GG. Wilt. Okay. Sure. We drew a negate. A negate is perfectly fine. It seems like they're actually playing a control game with me here. Who knows whether or not they'll win that control game. I am going to draw a card. I want to make a land drop. Saw it coming. Yeah, we'll hold that open. Probably use negate most likely, but who knows. This just means on a tap out, if I see them tap out, I can use my treasure here and I'll generate 2 mana off the treasure it puts out itself, plus the tome for a negate to protect against a removal spell. I think that's reasonable. Target player mills 3, then you return a land. Destroy non-creature, non-land permanent with 2 less mana value. Nah. Nah, that's okay. I'll keep my tome. This is a game of resource denial after all. Okay, so from here I'm going to foretell saw it coming, I think. Yeah. Foretell saw it coming. If I have to use it, so be it. If I don't, then it can be my negate stand-in that I was hoping for on my Galazeth turn. Bonder's Enclave. I mean, yep, they're playing right into a disdainful stroke by holding all these expensive spells. So Professor Onyx can go into the trash. We get an island, and Galazeth hits the field. Could play the Goldvein pick. Still allows me to play Saw It Coming. But I think we want to have as much mana as possible here, so let's have Saw It Coming plus Tome Tap for card draw. I think that's reasonable. There's no way they go for Belladross here. Soul Shatter. Okay. I did see that coming. The additional removal, maybe not so much. Destroy each non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less. Add extra mana. Fair enough. I will draw a card. That's it's a useful card, and it ramped. They did not have anything for the mana though, so I have a Sublime Epiphany now, which can't be too pleasant for them. Although, actually, what I'm going to do is probably go Goldvein Pick. If I do that, plus the equip, Goldvein Pick is mana itself, so it's basically only consuming 1, so I've got 3, 4, 5. Then I equip, it's basically free. So now I've got 5 mana. It's not Sublime Epiphany mana, but they've used a lot of removal, so I'm not sure I care too much. Yeah, let's just pass with Behold the Multiverse open, I guess. So there's Belladross. guess that's the reason for me to care. I don't have an answer to this. So, that's fine. We'll let that resolve. They pay 10. And a Vorinclex. Also don't care too much about that. So I'm going to get a pretty good turn on my untap here. Magma Opus is pretty reasonable. So they get a little token. Teeny weeny token. So here I am going to... Could take an extra turn. Let's swing first, so we generate the mana. Because we're taking an extra turn regardless, so if I take it after the combat damage goes through, then they don't realize that I'm going to untap and do it all over again. Which I think has some use. 3, 6, yeah, I could play this Arcane Signet. So this leaves me with 2 mana, which means I could probably do this. Leaves me with 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 off the Caesar Spoils. I think that's fine. Let's get rid of the Magma Opus? No, let's get rid of the Sublime Epiphany. Game. Hello? Oh. Thank you. And extra turn. Four, 5, 6. I think I've got enough, right? For lethal here. If I Magma Opus... Yeah, I should have enough. Return 2 creatures. Belladroth's definitely one of the tokens, I suppose. Let's see if they've got a Village Rites. That would prevent me from having Exaxes. And looks like I do have Exaxes. Fantastisch! Alright guys, well that is going to do it for today's video. Hopefully you've enjoyed, and if you have, I'd really appreciate if you do hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this in the future. It's been an absolute pleasure. Have a wonderful night, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.